Imagine this. You're a poor orphan girl living under the cruel hands of a wicked stepmother. One day she forces you to marry a blind beggar just to punish you, to ruin your future. But here's the twist no one saw coming. The man isn't blind, he isn't poor, he's a secret billionaire, pretending to be blind to test the hearts of women. What happens next will leave you speechless. This story is filled with betrayal, unexpected blessings, and a powerful lesson you won't forget. But before we dive into this emotional journey, do me a quick favor, smash that like button, and if you're new here, hit subscribe and join our growing family of story lovers. You don't want to miss what's coming next. Now, let's get into it. The sun had not yet fully risen, but Vanessa was already awake, her hands deep in cold soapy water, scrubbing the floor with a rag that once was her late mother's wrapper. Her knees ached from kneeling. Her fingers were cracked. Her eyes were heavy from the sleep she didn't get. But none of that mattered. This was her life. Her name was never called in kindness, only barked. Vanessa, why is this place still dirty? Vanessa, is this the food you cooked for human beings? Vanessa, if I hear your voice again, you'll sleep outside tonight. She had heard them all, every day, every hour. Vanessa was just 13 when the car crash took her parents. Her world shattered in a moment, leaving her with the only relative who claimed to care, her father's second wife, Angela. At first, Angela wore a mask of concern. Don't worry, she had said with crocodile tears. You will live with me. I'll take care of you like my own. But the moment the burial ended and the sympathizers went home, Angela's mask fell. That same night, she dragged Vanessa by the ear and screamed, "From now on, you will call me Ma. You'll cook, clean, and obey every word I say. If not, I'll throw you into the street and no one will care." And no one did. For years, Vanessa had become the unpaid slave in a house where she once lived as a beloved daughter. Her stepsisters, Cindy and Ella, lounged in silk pajamas, scrolling through social media, while Vanessa bathed with cold water and wore threadbare clothes that barely reached her knees. That morning, Vanessa stirred the OG in the rusted pot carefully. There was no sugar, no milk, just hot pap and old akara. The firewood smoke stung her eyes, and her stomach growled from hunger. She hadn't eaten since the day before. She heard the door creak behind her and froze. Angela stepped out in her wrapper, yawning. "So you're still here, staring at food like a statue?" she snapped. "Do I need to flog you before you move?" Vanessa stood quickly and poured the pap into a bowl, her hands trembling. "Sorry, Ma." Angela collected the bowl and spat into the pot. "This one is for the boss. Don't touch it." Vanessa nodded, swallowing her pride and hunger. She sat back on the floor, wrapping her arms around her knees. Angela turned back to her with an unexpected grin. "Eat fast and bathe. You have a visitor today." "A visitor?" Vanessa asked quietly. "Yes," Angela said, licking her oily fingers. "A man. He says he wants a wife, and I told him you're available." Vanessa's heart skipped. "A man? For me?" Angela laughed. "Don't flatter yourself. He's not a prince. In fact, he's blind." Vanessa blinked in confusion. "Yes, a blind man," Angela said, standing to her full height. "He said he's looking for a simple, obedient girl. I told him I have the perfect useless one right here." "Ma, please. I don't want to get married yet. I'm only 19. Angela's smile vanished. She grabbed Vanessa's chin and jerked her face up. "And who do you think you are to decide anything in this house? You live under my roof, eat my food, wear my charity. Now I have found a man foolish enough to take you, and you're saying no?" Tears welled in Vanessa's eyes. "I want to go to school." Angela slapped her so hard the bowl in Vanessa's hand tumbled. "School? What school? Do you think I'll waste my money sending you anywhere when I have daughters of my own to care for?" Vanessa held her cheek, too stunned to cry. "You'll marry that blind man tomorrow," Angela said, her voice cold. "Whether you like it or not. That way you'll stop being my burden." She turned and walked off, her slippers slapping the ground behind her. Vanessa sank to the floor, her shoulders shaking. The tears came like rain, bitter, hot, endless. She whispered to herself, "Is this how my life ends?" But life had a surprise waiting. A twist even pain couldn't predict. The next morning arrived with thick clouds and silence. For the first time in years, Vanessa wished the day would never begin. She sat on the edge of her thin mattress, holding the frayed hem of her only decent gown, a dull blue dress with loose seams and a faded neckline. Her hands trembled as she struggled to fix the broken zipper at the back. "Vanessa!" Angela's voice thundered from the corridor. "He's here!" Vanessa froze, her breath caught in her throat. The blind man. Her heart pounded against her ribs. Her chest felt tight. She wanted to scream, to run, to vanish into the ground. But she stood up quietly, wiped her tears, and stepped outside, because disobedience was not an option in Angela's house. When she stepped into the compound, she saw him. He stood tall, dressed in a neatly pressed caftan and dark sunglasses. He held a white cane in one hand, gently tapping it against the tiled floor. A man in a black suit stood beside him, his driver or assistant perhaps, guiding him. His expression was unreadable, calm, poised, and completely still. Angela beamed as she rushed forward. "Emeka, welcome, welcome. This is the girl I told you about. She's hardworking, quiet, and very obedient." Vanessa looked up at him. Emeka's face was youthful, no older than 30. He didn't smile. He only nodded, then turned his head slightly in her direction. "So, this is Vanessa?" he asked. His voice was deep and steady, not frail, not broken, just firm. Vanessa bowed her head. "Yes, sir." "I know this is sudden," he said softly, "but I have my reasons. I'm not looking for beauty or status. I just want a companion who won't see my blindness as a weakness." Angela laughed. "Oh, she's perfect for that. She doesn't even have a life. She'll have time for all your needs." Vanessa's hands balled into fists. Her body felt hot with silent humiliation. But she stayed quiet. "Do you have any questions for me, Vanessa?" Emeka asked. She looked up. His face was turned toward her, though his eyes were hidden behind the dark glasses. Her lips parted. Why me?" Angela shoved her forward. "What does it matter? The man is asking for your hand." Vanessa steadied herself. "Please, Ma, let me speak." Angela narrowed her eyes. Vanessa turned back to Emeka. I don't know you. I'm not ready for marriage. I want to go to school. I don't want to be forced into something I didn't choose." There was a pause. Emeka didn't speak, but the man beside him whispered something in his ear. Angela's face twisted. "You ungrateful girl. Do you think good men grow on trees? Look at yourself. No mother, no father, no money, nothing. You're lucky anyone even wants you." "Ma, please," Vanessa whispered, her voice cracking. Angela slapped her. "You will marry him. End of discussion." The assistant handed Angela a white envelope. She opened it and her eyes lit up. Thick wads of cash. Her face instantly softened. "Let's begin the preparations. The marriage will happen tomorrow." Vanessa stood rooted to the ground. The world around her spun. Everything felt surreal. A blind stranger, a forced wedding, a stepmother who just sold her like a commodity. That night, Vanessa didn't sleep. She sat by the small window in her room, staring at the stars. Her heart was heavy. Was this her fate? A life of caretaking and silence? A future locked in darkness with a man she didn't know? Yet, deep in her soul, a strange peace began to stir. She didn't know why, but something about Emeka felt different. He hadn't mocked her. He hadn't touched her. He hadn't even smiled. Yet his silence was not cruel. It was quiet, watchful, almost knowing. The next morning, in a rushed and joyless ceremony held under Angela's leaking zinc roof, Vanessa became Emeka's wife. No music, no friends, just a stepmother counting money in the corner and neighbors whispering behind folded arms. When Vanessa stepped into the black Jeep that would carry her to a strange new life, she didn't cry. She only looked back once, at the house that gave her scars but no love. Then she faced forward and unknowingly drove toward destiny. The car drove in silence for the first 10 minutes. Vanessa sat stiffly in the back seat beside Emeka, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. The new wedding ring on her finger feeling more like a chain than a symbol of love. Emeka's assistant, Obina, sat at the front, occasionally glancing at them through the rearview mirror. The car was spotless, the leather seats cool and scented. Everything felt expensive. Too expensive for a man Angela claimed was poor and blind. Vanessa couldn't help but notice the luxury of the vehicle. The glowing screen on the dashboard, the gentle hum of the air conditioner, the smoothness of the ride. This didn't feel like the car of a blind, struggling man. "Where are we going?" she asked quietly. Emeka turned his head toward her, the dark glasses still covering his eyes. "Home," he said simply. Vanessa swallowed. "Where is home?" "You'll see soon enough," he replied, his voice calm. But there was something behind his words, a quiet mystery. The car exited the busy streets and turned toward a secluded road lined with tall trees and modern streetlights. The area changed, no more noise. No potholes, no roadside vendors yelling, "Pure water" or "Gala." She peered out the window confused. The houses became grander, white-fenced compounds, security gates, landscape gardens. These were mansions. Some had fountains. Others had long driveways and swimming pools. This was where the rich lived. Something didn't add up. "Are we dropping someone off?" she asked cautiously. "No," Emeka said. "This is our destination." Then the car made a final turn and stopped before a towering black and gold gate, far larger than any she'd ever seen. On the gate were large initials carved in metal, EM. Vanessa's breath hitched. Her heart began to pound. A security man approached, typed a code, and the gate slowly opened. What lay beyond made her mouth fall open. The estate was massive, sprawling lawns on either side, a fountain with marble lion heads spitting water, exotic flowers lined up like royalty welcoming a queen. At the end of the long, paved driveway stood a mansion that looked like something from a dream. It had pillars, balconies, and windows so wide she could see the curtains fluttering from outside. She turned to Emeka, stunned. "I thought you said you were blind." He smiled slightly, but gave no answer. The car rolled forward until it stopped directly in front of the entrance. Two uniformed guards opened the doors. Another man rushed forward and opened Vanessa's side. As she stepped out, her dusty sandals touched clean tiled ground. Her head spun. A woman in an apron came out from the mansion, curtsied, and said, "Welcome, madam." "Madam," Vanessa whispered. They entered through the large double doors into a living room that could rival a five-star hotel. Crystal chandeliers, velvet couches, glass tables, a spiral staircase. There were paintings on the walls, real ones, not prints. A scent of vanilla and lavender filled the air. She stood in the middle, frozen. Her legs shook. "Is this your house?" she asked, her voice trembling. Emeka reached for his sunglasses and slowly removed them. For the first time, Vanessa saw his eyes. Bright brown, clear, focused, seeing. He smiled. "Yes," he said. "I'm not blind." Vanessa's knees buckled. She stumbled backward into a chair, gasping. You can see?" "I can see very well," he said. "And yes, this is my home." I don't understand." Emeka walked toward her, calm and steady. "I pretended to be blind to test hearts. In a world full of people who love wealth more than people, I needed to know who would still treat me with decency if they thought I had nothing." Tears spilled from Vanessa's eyes. "Then why me? You never smiled at me. You never flattered me. You didn't fake kindness. You simply looked bad and honest and still agreed to come with me. Even in your brokenness, you had dignity. That told me everything." Vanessa covered her face, overwhelmed. This wasn't a nightmare. It was a miracle. "You're not just a husband," she whispered. "You're a billionaire." "Emeka Maduka," he said, offering his hand, "owner of Maduka Holdings. But here, I'm simply your husband, and you are my blessing." Vanessa took his hand, still trembling. For the first time in years, someone saw her, truly saw her. Not as a burden, not as a mistake, but as a woman worthy of love. 3 days had passed since the wedding, and Angela was still celebrating. She sipped malt in her plastic chair beneath the mango tree and bragged to every neighbor who passed by. "At least I've done my part. That blind man will humble her." All her secret dreams of going to school, finished. Her daughters, Cindy and Ella, painted their nails beside her, laughing. "Mummy, can you imagine Vanessa feeding him, cleaning his poop, and bathing him?" Cindy giggled. "She deserves it," Ella added, blowing on her nails. always pretending to be decent. Angela smiled wickedly. Let her suffer small. I could have kicked her out long ago, but I let her stay. Now she's married off and out of my life. Thank God. Just then a sleek black Mercedes-Benz slowly pulled up in front of the gate. Everyone paused. It wasn't the kind of car that ever entered their neighborhood. The door opened, and a sharply dressed man in a black suit stepped out. He carried a gold-rimmed envelope and walked directly toward Angela. Good afternoon, madam, he said with a slight bow. Special delivery from Mr. and Mrs. Maduka. Angela blinked. Maduka? Who is that? Your daughter and her husband, he replied. Vanessa and Chief Emeka Maduka. Angela stood up confused. Wait, Chief? He handed her the envelope and walked away without another word. The Mercedes hummed to life and glided off down the dusty road. Angela opened the envelope, and the world around her stopped. Inside was a glossy invitation card, thick and luxurious. Written in gold lettering were the words, You are cordially invited to the housewarming dinner at Maduka Estate, hosted by Chief Emeka Maduka and his beloved wife, Vanessa Maduka. Below that was a photo. Angela gasped. It was Vanessa. Not in rags, not barefoot, but in a floor-length emerald gown with diamonds around her neck. She stood beside Emeka, who was no longer in sunglasses. His eyes were open and seeing. Another photo showed the estate entrance, the EM gate. A third showed Vanessa laughing, radiant, on a marble balcony overlooking a fountain. Angela's hands trembled. Her mouth moved, but no words came out. Her neighbors crowded around. Madam, what's inside? Angela tried to hide the photo, but it was too late. Someone snatched it. They all saw. The silence that followed was thick with shock. She married a billionaire? One neighbor whispered. Wait, the man is not blind? Another gasped. But you told us he was broke and blind, cried Mama Kalu from across the street. Angela staggered backwards, still holding the invitation. No, this must be a trick. Cindy grabbed the photo, her eyes wide. Mummy, that house, that dress. Vanessa is rich. Ella's jaw dropped. You said he was poor. Angela finally found her voice, and it came out as a scream. Lies! This is witchcraft. She must have charmed him. The entire neighborhood burst into murmurs and mocking laughter. This is karma, someone shouted. That girl suffered in your house like a slave. She never even ate 3 times a day, another woman said. Now see what God has done for her. Angela dropped to her knees, wailing and tearing at her wrapper. Mummy, stand up, Cindy hissed, embarrassed. But Angela didn't care. How can Vanessa be living like a queen while I sit here like a fool? One neighbor clapped. You forced her into the marriage thinking it would destroy her. Now it has elevated her. Angela stared at the photos again, her eyes burning with disbelief. Vanessa, her housemaid, her punching bag, the girl she reduced to nothing, was now Mrs. Maduka, wife of a billionaire. She had sold her into royalty without knowing it. Angela didn't eat that day, or the next. Rumors spread like wildfire, and from that moment on, no one respected her in the neighborhood again. Vanessa stood quietly on the balcony of the Maduka estate, wrapped in a silk robe, her arms folded against the soft evening breeze. Below her, the lights of the fountain glowed golden in the night. It felt unreal, like a dream that refused to end. She wasn't sweeping floors. She wasn't scrubbing toilets. She wasn't being slapped for asking questions. She was free. But even in her freedom, a shadow of doubt lingered in her chest. Would this last? Behind her, Emeka approached silently. You're always out here, he said softly. She turned to him, smiling faintly. It's the only place I still feel like I'm awake. He leaned on the railing beside her. You think this is a dream? I think, she hesitated, that maybe I don't deserve it. Emeka's brow furrowed. Why would you say that? Vanessa's eyes welled up. Because I'm not polished. I'm not like those girls who grew up in wealth or wore perfume to school. I've served people my whole life. I don't know how to be this. Emeka took her hand gently. Vanessa, I didn't marry a status. I married a soul. She looked up at him, startled. I could have had any woman, Wes, he said. But I was looking for truth. You didn't smile to impress me. You didn't flirt or flatter. You were raw, broken, and honest. That is the rarest kind of beauty. She tried to speak, but emotion choked her. I watched you long before I entered your life, he added. I sent Obina to your neighborhood weeks before. You shared your last slice of yam with a beggar. You covered your stepsister when she broke Angela's mirror. You were abused, yet still kind. That's what told me. This girl is gold. Vanessa sobbed quietly. She had cried so many tears from pain, but this time they were from healing. I want you to go back to school, he said. Finish your education. Study anything. I'll sponsor everything. You'll have the life they told you you didn't deserve. She looked at him, stunned. Why are you so good to me? Because someone once rescued me when I was young and lost. I promised God I would do the same when I found someone worth it. Vanessa wrapped her arms around him, and for the first time in years, she felt what love without condition felt like. Back in the village, Angela's house was quiet now. No more boasting, no more visitors. Shame had become her blanket. Her daughters had turned cold, blaming her for deceiving them and losing the one chance they had to access real wealth. Her shop had fewer customers, and whispers followed her every step. Mama blind-in-law, people mocked. She could barely sleep, haunted by memories of how she treated Vanessa. Then one morning, a black SUV parked outside her gate again. Angela peeked through the curtain, fearful. Not again. Vanessa stepped out, dressed in a beautiful orange gown, carrying a small bag. Angela opened the door, stunned. You came? I did, Vanessa said calmly. Angela stepped back, unsure of what to say. Did your husband send you? No, Vanessa said. I came on my own. Angela looked down. I suppose you are here to mock me. Vanessa shook her head. No, I came to forgive you. Angela looked up in disbelief. I will never forget how you treated me, Vanessa continued, but I refuse to let your bitterness poison my future. I came here because you're the only family I have left, whether you accept it or not. Angela's lips quivered. She sank to the floor and began to cry. I didn't know, Vanessa. I was just tired, angry, and poor. I treated you like an animal. And now you shine brighter than all of us. Vanessa nodded. And now you see, God lifts those we despise. She handed Angela the bag. Inside was money. Not too much. Just enough. For your shop, she said. And maybe to learn kindness. Then she turned and walked back to the car. Angela wept, not just from shame, but from the one thing she never expected from Vanessa, mercy. That night, Vanessa curled into Emeka's arms, her heart finally at peace. She had been beaten, silenced, and rejected. But now she was loved, cherished, and seen. Not because she fought for power, but because she never lost her soul. And that was her true inheritance. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please share your thoughts and tell us what learned in the comment box. We would love to read them. And guess what? There is another powerful story coming up in a few days. So please subscribe to this channel and turn on your notifications bell. Don't forget to hit the like button and share with your family and friends. Thank you so much for watching.